This is your before and after story. Southeastern College can help you prepare for a secure and fulfilling career in the growing healthcare field. We offer a wide range of careers to choose from, so whether you want to be a medical assistant, medical billing and coding specialist, nurse, surgical technologist, or another healthcare career, we've got you covered. Become a vital part of a healthcare team and make a real difference. Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.
So kick back and listen, it'll make your grin. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Yeah.
That is right. Every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central. Pilgrims Grey Chronicles coming at you. Your host, Robert Clark, and apologize here. I'm re-recording last night's show because I did an update, recommended update from Windows that kept pestering me forever and a day, and so I finally did it and didn't think anything of it because I've had other Windows driver things done before, and I've never had any issue with it before, but this particular Windows update reset some settings that I had in my studio for my mic and some other things. It changed the Windows driver for it, and so without realizing it, you got nothing but static and a horror show in the background. I appreciate many of you pointing it out immediately. And I thought, well, it's not fair for the listening audience to have to deal with that. So I'm just going to record what I did the night before, only with this added intro to let you know that I'm so sorry that I did not double check. I just didn't feel the need. I test my microphone, and during the test, I didn't get any noise. But just because you test your microphone out doesn't necessarily mean that what's being recorded, because of the microphone setting within the software that's recording, is set correctly. So you can get this horrible, well, you heard it. I don't need to tell you. You all got to experience the unpleasant ear candy static. So let's go back over last night's show. What I was reading to you was my poetic verse I like to open with, because I like Tolkien, I like writing, I like him. And so sometimes I do my intro for the show, writing silliness. I hope you enjoy. And of course, I'm writing a book that it's taking me forever to do because I have such a busy life, and I do this podcast, and I do a lot of research, but I'm also writing a fantasy novel that takes place during the pre-flood world. And it's just purely fiction, but because it's fiction, I always felt like the best fiction also has some level of realness to it. Like, I love the fact that Tolkien created an entire universe with a language and a history, and I'm not so much doing that. But I am writing a fantasy novel that takes place in the pre-flood world of our world. And so I don't necessarily have to go into a whole lot of background because it's already there and we're aware of it. But I do want to make sure I get, names of places correct, locations. I mean, I want to make it as real a world as possible for readers to enjoy. And when it's done, so far I'm in various stages on about 22 to 24 chapters of this book. I have the first 4 or 5 pretty much 90% done. And the way I write, I have this tendency to like, oh my gosh, I have this, it just comes on me. I'll have this brilliant picture in my head of what I see happening to connect one part of a story to the next. And so I need to go write it down. And it doesn't matter what chapter it's in, right? So I could be like, oh, this is really going to be a good thing to describe to the reader in chapter 22 where this happens. So I start writing it. But the next day I might write or rewrite like a conversation that took place in chapter 3. Does that make sense to you? Like I can't just like write from chapter 1 all the way through to the end. Now I did do an outline, which has changed like 5 or 6 times. But anyway, I don't want to bore you with the details. The dealio is when I read things like I'm about to read, just know it's because I like to write, whether it is a fictional novel or the music for our upcoming album called 12s. So here we go as the fire crackles low and the wind whispers along the eaves of the Pilgrims Grey Inn. The letters arrive, tied with string, laced with urgency, stained with ink and fire. Questions from the road, thoughts from the watchtower, warnings from the wilderness. And tonight we open the letter satchel and read what you, our fellow wanderers, scouts, and seekers have sent. Some challenge, some encourage, and some whisper riddles too strange to ignore. And we don't claim to have every answer, but we walk with lanterns in hand and steel in our words, seeking the narrow path through the fog. And if tonight's trail leads through Tartaria, through secret societies, or through the whispered pages of forgotten prophecy, so be it. So welcome, travelers. Again, this is Pilgrims Grey Chronicles. Robert Clark, your host. It's Wednesday night, and the fire is lit. Let's see what the road has delivered. I know we don't have a whole lot of comments this time around. Some have been added, and I'll include the additional ones since last night, which are mostly, hey, your audio is frigging horrible. So anyway, Angie Williams again. I think she must have heard what I wrote. Maybe. Did she respond to what No, I guess she didn't. Okay, so Angie Williams, 8472. This was kind of a strange one. And this is to our From Nimrod to Neuralink video, or podcast. And it says, to the author of this video, yes, I am one of the elected 144,000 collectives, twins, light workers, counterparts, chosen ones, earth angels, and have the physical markings on my hands to prove it. And yes, I am one of the fallen archangels in spirit, and in one of my past lifetimes, I was King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Neo-Babylon, and also conquered the kingdoms of Jerusalem, Judah, Assyria, and Egypt. Again, I don't know what to make of that. Other than, until I know more about the person and they comment perhaps more, I really don't know what to say. My initial reaction would be, you are being deceived by some level of activity from the spirit world presenting itself as ancient wisdom or something else and telling you these things. And I think you've been deceived. But I could be wrong and persuaded otherwise. So, and then we have Annie, same video, Nimrod to Neuralink. Bill Schnoblin was also a vampire. And again, I just want to reiterate, I would just say this. I never read anywhere where specifically I heard him claim or that somebody claimed that he was a vampire. But it doesn't surprise me because we know, and I even stated this in the video, that he was into Luciferianism, devil worship. He involved himself in occult activity, including witchcraft and blood rituals and so on. So would it surprise me that he was involved with vampirism or literally some sort of vampire? Sure. I mean, and it just makes me wonder. I mean, because in the information I read, he wound up becoming a Christian. So I'm not sure you can go from being some sort of occultic creature like a vampire to a full-on Christian. So who knows? All I know is what he reveals about the Masons and other rituals is very interesting, and that's why I included it in this video, because it is also connected to our ongoing research in this area and how it affects everything in the world, from your higher-ups and the outer rings and circles, because it's circles within circles, all the way down to your Masons that don't even know any of this is going on. They're just there for business connections and to get ahead in the world, and they have no idea what they've gotten themselves involved with. But if they're good enough at what they're doing and show certain sociopathic tendencies, they'll be selected to move on past tier 3. So, and then we had the German guy. He said something about me being green on his screen. He made me green on his screen. Anyway, I'm not sure why anybody would say that to me, but great. I hope you really enjoy the color green. That's the only thing I know to say to you. If you would like to further explain, either in German or English, what exactly it is you meant by that, because I'm completely confused by your comment and don't fully get it. Maybe I'm old and I am old, but so there's no maybe about that. But and they say as part of getting old, you begin to just not be familiar with the hip terms of today. So if that's the case, and I just don't understand what you're saying in German, or if that's some hip German thing to say, I'm clueless. No idea. But I do appreciate you taking the time to comment and listen. And, of course, our returning listener and one of my favorites, Rebecca Spalding, on our Earthquakes in Iran Lawmaker Assassinated Friday show. That's our top 3 stories. She says, great show. Thanks for sharing your views with us. I really loved the closing song also. Well, I listened to it today when I was at work, and I just wanted to re-listen to it. I still cannot decide which one I like best, because I really like the way the one from this past Friday starts out better than the one I used from the previous Friday. I think they're both good. I just can't decide which one I like best. If you have a favorite, let me know, and that's the one I'll start using. But for me, I can, maybe I'll just keep alternating. I don't know. So, and then in our Nimrod to Neuralink, Rebecca says, yay, way to connect the dots. You have such a great understanding. When walking in the Spirit, great truths are revealed to those who love truth. You are a rare treasure, and so are you, and I appreciate you listening and commenting on every video you comment on. It's a big encouragement to me, because it is so time consuming, and it's really great to get that extra spark when people positively comment and encourage and edify. It just makes you want to keep doing what you're doing. So I really appreciate it. And I have noticed that when you do these kind of things and you're learning and sharing truth, it seems like when you're faithful with certain things, that God reveals even more to you. Like when he knows you can handle it and you have laid a foundation of other truths, then he begins to reveal more and more to you. Have you all found that to be the case? Because I'm finding that to be the case, and I even see it, that sort of thing playing out in the lives of others that I know who are fellow podcasters. And so next we have on our Tartaria video, which I haven't had a comment from in a while, King Fox 8, who says, cool story, bro. And so that could be a compliment, or it could be, yeah, you're full of crap. I have no idea. So I would guess, judging by visiting his YouTube channel, that I just have a feeling, with my cynical way of looking at things sometimes, that he's just basically saying that I'm full of crap on it. But see, here's the thing. I get a lot of comments on the Tartaria video of people who are disappointed with the way I covered it. Well, the main thrust of what I was trying to cover was the idea, and I covered other areas, but the main one was that people think that Tartaria was the millennial kingdom combined with the Byzantine Empire or whatever. And so I went over a lot of that in my particular Tartaria video, including showing some of the grotesque architecture in that. I probably need to remake the Tartaria video, because this was done when I was very first starting out and didn't have a whole lot of time, and I had to use AI voice to read my script that I write out with all my notes, because I didn't have time. And I could just, copy my notes and paste it into an AI voice thing, and then it would just record and read it, and I could go off and do whatever else I needed to do, come back and check, do a few minor edits here and there, and be done. I didn't have time to sit in a chair like I'm doing now and, do a podcast. So, but now I am, and now it's my voice and not an AI voice. I guess the difference would be I'm not doing images, but I was told that many people are just listening anyway and don't necessarily care about the images anyway, especially on long form podcast stuff. But I do want to start doing more videos when I start to have more time to do it. And I will certainly try, in every case when I'm doing an interview, to have video. I couldn't do that in the case of Jeremy Stone because we just had issues with, he was on a cell phone, wasn't at his laptop at home when we did the interview. And so he wasn't able to do some of the software communication, wasn't able to do Zoom audio or Riverside or basically anything. So, and that's fine. We still did the audio, and that's great. And anybody who wants to come on the show and, explain how they became awakened to the seed war or any of these things in the world that are most people would see as abnormal, like flat earth or any of these things. If you want to talk about your journey on here and let us know a little bit about yourself, you're welcome. Just email me and I'll make arrangements for you to be interviewed. Typically what happens is you'll email me, I'll email you back. We'll try to set up a time. And when we set up that time, I'll probably contact you at some point before that to let you know how things work. Like, generally speaking, I'll send you a link to click on, and that will draw you into my studio. And how it will be recorded kind of depends on you. If you have a camera, then we can do video. If you don't want to be on video, then we can just do audio only, and that's fine by me. In fact, it's easier on me to do audio only because it takes 1/10 of the time to upload audio that it does an entire video podcast with audio. And, we can talk about all of these strange things that we find on the road that goes ever on into this world as pilgrims, right? So, but yeah, contact me anytime if you want to do that. And then we have Annie 0100. I am a higher thinker, 64 years old. I never liked this realm since I arrived in 1960 in Wichita, Kansas. Well, I arrived in Bloomington, Illinois in 1968. So, I feel you. I feel like what C.S. Lewis said. There's something that my heart desires that cannot be satisfied with anything on this earth. And it's why rich people and people with great material wealth enjoy it for a season, but find it empty. It's because we weren't made for this. And so while it might be attractive to the flesh for a season, eventually you find it all empty and you have this like the band Extreme says, a hole in your heart that can only be filled by you, and by you I mean God. So let's go to Annie0100. Next comment. And here's where it starts. You have too much background noise, probably the fan in the great heat wave. Well, it really isn't. We have a great, fantastic air conditioning unit. In fact, sometimes it's too cold in our house. So it wasn't that. It was what I said at the beginning of the show. It was Bill Gates and his crappy Windows drivers. It makes me wish, honestly, that maybe I had gotten an Apple cell phone and a Mac computer, because I hear they have far fewer driver problems. Whereas Windows, sometimes when it updates, it resets certain things. And I feel like if you're going to do an update, you better darn well not change the settings on some of the stuff. Now like everything that I use, I'm going to have to double check. Like in my recording studio software, when we do music, I'm going to have to double check to make sure all my settings are what they used to be. It's really annoying. It's kind of like that same feeling when somebody jacks up your credit card, and then you have to go get a new credit card and cancel your old one. And every subscription you had on that is going to have to be redone onto the new card. It is so annoying. You know what? If somebody ever came out with an app that could transfer it easily, just like you enter the one card and then you enter the new one, and it transfers all of your prior subscriptions to the new card in one fell swoop, I would pay money for that. You could take my money. Seriously. All right. And then Rebecca also, I can hardly hear you because of the background noise. Yeah, it really isn't background noise. I mean, it is. What's happening is the drivers are screwing up. So what you're hearing is the inner operations of a computer, really. The compute, perhaps the fan inside or the CPU or whatever, crackling, fading. Very, very annoying. And then Sandra Crumpler. Well, first of all, Sandra, it's the first time I've seen you comment, so welcome aboard as a fellow pilgrim. I hope you can forgive me for not double checking. I probably should have, knowing that Windows can occasionally screw things up, but I did not. That's on me. But I appreciate you letting me know about the bad audio. Many of you did, and I really appreciate it. And so that's why I'm fixing it, because you should not have to listen to a show with bad audio. And so I'm fixing it. And then there's my own comment, which I won't read, because I basically just said what my comment says, which is just an apology for, the poor sound quality. I'll have to start double checking it in the future and just making sure. So let's move on to some things I received in email that I mentioned in the show, like this X post from Clandestine somebody sent me, who wishes to remain anonymous. But they wanted, this person is not a Trump supporter, but they let me know about this particular thing, because this is a very common view that many, 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 many supporters of the MAGA movement and Trump share. And I used to share this same point of view back in 2016. So here it is. It says, I understand why many were fearful that Trump might start another 20-year war. They saw that our presidents in the past were compromised by the deep state. What these people do not see is that Trump is simply not compromised by the deep state. He's not one of them, and he just proved it. He has no desire for war. He has no desire to get the U.S. entangled in foreign conflicts to feed the war machine. He has no desire to destabilize nations for the CIA. He has no desire for regime change. How do I know he is not one of them? Well, because ever since Trump came down the escalator, it has been 99.999% negative coverage from the media. They tried to remove him from office. They tried to imprison him. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to overthrow him. They indicted him. They raided his home. Then they tried to kill him on live TV. The reason they expended so much ammunition trying to stop Trump is specifically because he is not one of them. And they knew it, which made him an existential threat to their power. What the Trump haters are missing from their analysis is that Trump is actually a good leader who actually wants to do good for the world and actually knows what he is doing, which I know is hard for everyone to believe because most of the world have never seen a competent leader in their entire lives. And once you understand Trump is not controlled and is actually trying to dismantle the deep state, you can never unsee it. And so this person only points this out to show how easy it is to get caught up in all this, the black and white chessboard, checkerboard, whatever you want to call it. There's no way Trump gets into power. No way, unless he's one of them. I know many people don't want to believe that, but just do the background investigations. Look who he's related to. Look who he does business with. It won't take you long to figure out his connections are their connections, and they all know each other. They're all in the same club, and this is just a good cop, bad cop Hegelian dialect. I know they call it black pilling, whatever, but I'm busy giving you the foundation in the last two Mondays. With this series we're doing, because we did skip a Monday for the Jeremy Stone interview and for the USS Liberty special episode. But the point is that nobody gets to that level of world power unless they select you to be there. And the press coverage is controlled. If they want to make it look negative, it's only to build up a hero for the masses so that they can still accomplish their Novus Ordo Seclorum, or New Order for the Ages. Do you see anybody like Obama going to jail? Do you see anybody really paying any level of accountability? No, you don't. And you never will. You're not going to see it. They are all buddies. If they have to sacrifice a person here or there, they'll do that. And if there's people who begin to get out of line or step out of line, like what I mentioned in last Friday's show, where it looks as if Tim Walz had to get rid of a few people, if you look at his connections. At any rate, what I'm telling you is none of them, even Trump, I know they've played him out to be the hero that, no, Trump's the exception. He isn't. And you'll see that play out later on. You don't have to take my word for it. You'll eventually figure it out all on your own. I'm just telling you in advance that his story about the snake is him, and you're going to get bit at some point. So, clandestine, if you're listening, at some point when you get across the other side of the river, you're going to get bit. I hate to tell you, they are all in on it. From the very top of the circle to the continuing outer circles, where each circle knows less and less about the upper circle above it and above it. They just follow orders. They are selected to be leaders to accomplish what groups like the CFR want them to accomplish. And that's it. That's why you see so much weird stuff. That's why you elect people and they never seem to do what you want. Or there's little to no difference between. It's because it is a uniparty. They are all corrupt. They are all involved with stuff. They're either corrupted or compromised in some way. So they're all still going to do the bidding of the people way up at the top whose names you don't know. I don't even know them, and I'm digging to find out as much as I can about them. And I haven't had any strange calls or knocks at the door yet. Maybe I have had attempts to sabotage my computer. I mean, it was pretty weird that that all got changed up. I gotta say. Anyway, so that is my feeling on that. Sorry if it burns you or upsets you, but I can't make everybody happy. So I don't even try. I just do my best to live in the world and to live as peaceably among others as I possibly can. But I'm still going to share the truth and love, and we should all have boundaries, and we should all be able to share the truth and love. I would listen to you and hear your case if you wanted to make it on your own podcast, and If I didn't agree, I would just challenge what you have to say. I wouldn't be ugly and hateful about it. I would just give you my side of the story. So somebody sent me this on Dr. Simon Gold, where she says, breaking. By the way, I don't 100% trust her. I strongly suspect she is controlled opposition in the medical field. But so she says, breaking, a new investigation reveals the FDA has approved hundreds of drugs with no evidence they work. Oh my gosh, what a shocker. And kept them on the market even after reports of serious harm. This is not science. This is criminal negligence. How many lives were destroyed? Who will be held accountable? Well, the answer to that is no one. No one. And if they do find someone, it'll be somebody who is just cannon fodder or a scapegoat. The people who really are involved will never, in this lifetime anyway, be held accountable. They're too powerful and too rich. So nothing will be done about it. At least not until enough people wake up and say they've had enough and start doing things about it and looking into it and waking and just finding out and challenging it. But not enough people are, and not enough shows like this get shared. You know, people just don't take the time to do it, or they forget, or some people are just too lazy. They don't take the time to do anything. They just keep taking in information and they don't share it, or they don't help other shows that are taking the time, whether it's mine or anybody else's, to share it and get it out there. You know, support people who are sticking their neck out there. You know. So let's look at this next one that somebody sent in. This is from a listener who sent in this from a doctor. In fact, I've got two from this guy, Levi Hazen. So there's a picture of a candle with some Jewish, and before anybody corrects me on this, I get that it's not really the Star of David or Seal of Solomon or, you know, whatever. But just know that the Jewish star is back there behind this candle, kind of a dark, hazy thing. And the meme says, something is wrong. Anti-Semitism is rising louder, bolder, and more violent. History is whispering warnings. Are we listening? Hashtag never again is now. Hashtag stop anti-Semitism. Hashtag no place for hate. I would agree that it does seem to me that there's been a pretty dramatic increase in anti-Semitism, especially in the last 5 years. In the last 2 especially. So this person says, observation, anti-Semitism is rapidly rising from 3 groups at the same time. Those 3 groups are, 1, the far left, a Marxist, socialist, communist, Islamic worldview. Free Palestine provides intersectionality for every other cause. If you hate Israel, you belong. Second group, the far right, a Christian nationalistic worldview that wants to bring the kingdom now to the U.S. They appear religious, using slogans like Christ is King, but have no regard for the Bible's teachings about Israel and the Jewish people. That does seem to be an increasing group. They're unfamiliar with the details of the Abrahamic covenant and how it is not conditional. Sorry, I had to drink a bit of soothing tea. I'm not necessarily a big fan of chamomile, but it does seem to soothe the throat when you're speaking. So, all right. And number 3, evangelicals. Within evangelicalism, there are those who claim God's unique covenants with the Jewish people have been transferred to the church. They teach that God has moved on from the Jewish people, and all of his promises are now spiritually applied to, conveniently, them. They teach that modern Jewish people have no special role to play in the future. They teach that today's Jewish people are not the Jewish people of the Bible. They teach that the modern state of Israel cannot be the work of God. All of this is taught despite Paul's clear teaching that the gifts and calling of God are irrevocable. This group zealously rails against the Jewish people's unconditional status and promises. They are as zealous as Paul was for proclaiming Israel's continued place in God's program. So perhaps the dramatic rise of anti-Semitism happening at the same time across groups with vastly different worldviews is indicative that the hatred is coming from the same demonic sources. And then he says, hey, I am just asking questions. So the funny thing is especially in the evangelical group, there's, a lot of confusion because there's a little bit of truth mixed in with all of that, but also a little distortion and a little bit of deception and leaving certain things out. And this is why it's good to be a Berean and really dig into these questions and don't just take people's word for it. Just because you hear podcasts railing against something, even mine, you should double check what I'm saying. We should all dig and make sure that we have God's full counsel. And if we miss something and somebody corrects us, don't just immediately dismiss it because it doesn't agree with what you believe right at the moment. Maybe go and check and see first, see what this person has to say, look at it, and then, if that person turns out to be wrong, then you can go back and say, no, I looked into what you said and you're missing some things here. But I don't think we should just arbitrarily dismiss it because it doesn't agree with, our particular belief, especially when it comes to something like this. There are other boundaries that shouldn't be crossed, like Jesus is God in the flesh. He died and rose again on the third day, according to the scriptures. If there's some obvious truth, that's different. Then, we should maybe punch the person in the face with the word of God. I don't know. Punch them in love. So then we have another post by this gentleman, right? Where was that at? Nope, I can't read that because it has to do with something that got me a ding last time. And I can't risk that until I get my Rumble channel started. Because they're way more open-minded and free speech oriented than the YouTube folks. Let's see. I know I saw it. Oh, here. No? Sorry, folks. I had this lined up, and now I cannot seem to find it. But I'm finding all kinds of other weird stuff that was... goodness gracious. Somebody sent me a funny meme that shows Jesus in a field full of people listening to him. And it says, local carpenter continues to spread disinformation deemed harmful by religious experts. That's really great. Well, I may not be able to read it because I cannot, for the life of me, find the article. I hope I didn't delete it. That would be really stupid. Huh. Yeah, I really, honestly can't seem to find it. Dang it. That's really annoying. Don't you hate it when you are looking for something and you can't find it, even though just a day before you had it right there, all lined up, and it just disappears? It's the most ridiculous thing ever. I'm just double checking one more time just to make sure I didn't miss it, because I'm afraid I probably deleted it, which is really annoying. Huh. Well, yeah. I am coming across some funnier memes. Like this one here has like a picture of some tall, gangly looking gray beings sitting next to what looks like a statue, or basically a kind of Sumerian king with whatever, and like UFOs in the sky, and the title on this thing says "Disclosure happened 6,000 years ago" in regards to there being other life forms or whatever. I didn't want to read the memes because it's just easier to do on a video than to try to help you see a meme. I mean, I can read it, yes, but it's just not really the same, is it? So, I don't know if anybody follows DC Drano, but I do. And this is kind of how I feel now. He says, things I used to trust, but no longer. Doctors, elections, vaccines, the CDC, FDA, government's reasons for war, the Pope, judges, military generals, FBI, the DOJ. And I'm not alone. Tens of millions of Americans have awakened in recent years to how deep the corruption in our government has metastasized. Yes, I wish more people would wake up to it. That's what I wish. We need way more people waking up to this. The only bad thing is I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but it seems as if when you have, and I was listening to this on the Fact Hunter, George Hobbs's podcast just the other day, it seems as if that anytime you have a great awakening of the people in these last couple of centuries, you wind up having some sort of massive war that puts everybody right back into a state of ignorance and falling asleep again, because they're so preoccupied with the war and the destruction and the death of it that you forget all about, everything that's going on, So, I just found it. Okay, so we'll read this real quick. So sorry it took me that long, and hopefully I didn't lose you. But this was that guy again, Levi Hazen, and this is called Israel's Three Big Untils, right? And here it goes. The word until in the below passages indicates a limited length of time. As Bible readers, we would do well to recognize and consider limited time periods as we read. Just as we recognize that the earth and our bodies are not what they will be one day, so the Bible also teaches that current Israel, both the country and Jewish people, are not what she will be one day. So, he includes 3 verses and then comments on them. So here's the first one, Matthew 23:37 through 39. For I tell you, you will never see me again until you say, he who comes in the name of the Lord is the blessed one. So his comment is Israel's King Messiah did not leave her forever, just as the prophets predict. Jesus will return to his people. When will he return? When Israel welcomes him as the Messiah. And you can also see Isaiah 52, 12 through chapter 53, 13, and Zechariah 12:10 and Romans 11:26. The next verse he gives is Luke 21:24. I'll read the verse and then tell you his comment. The verse says, they will fall by the edge of the sword and be led captive into all the nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. So he says, though Gentile nations have dominated Jerusalem for centuries, these times will eventually be fulfilled. Jerusalem will not be dominated by hostile enemies when the King of Israel returns to establish his kingdom. After destroying hostile nations in Zechariah 14, Jesus will sit on the throne of his glory in Zion, according to Matthew 25:31, and provide instruction for the peoples, Isaiah chapter 2, and he will usher in peace throughout the world and gather the dispersed of Israel, Isaiah 11:12. He will appoint his 12 disciples to sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel, Matthew 19:28. And then he offers us Romans 11:25 through 27, which says, "So that you will not be conceited, brothers, I do not want you to be unaware of this mystery. A partial hardening has come to Israel until the full number of the Gentiles has come in, and in this way all Israel will be saved. As it is written, the liberator will come from Zion. He will turn away godlessness from Jacob, and this will be my covenant with them when I take away their sins." And so his final comment is, although there is a remnant according to God's grace, in Romans 11:5, Israel is experiencing a partial hardening. Paul, like the prophets before him, teaches us that this hardening is both temporary and partial. One day, God's Spirit will be poured out, Zechariah 12:10, and all Israel will be united with God through his Messiah, just as the Hebrew prophets predict in Jeremiah 31 through 37. So, I only read this because it's, it kind of goes with the other thing he wrote, the three groups of people. And it's not that we support Israel and all that they do, because not everything they do is great, right? But the point is, they going all the way back to Babel, when all the other nations went chasing after the little g gods, the rebellious angels, and the divine council, better known as, again, the little g gods, which every culture has stories of, whether it's Zeus and all the other gods, or you name them, Thor, Loki. They're all part of that divine council. And the vast majority of the peoples of the world, the other nations from Babel who spoke different languages, went and followed those gods. But God picked one particular man out of the groups of people from Babel, named Abram, and made a particular nation out of them that would know him as God, and they would be his people. It doesn't mean that there's anything special about them. It doesn't mean they are somehow magically all going to heaven, because it's clear from reading the Old Testament that most of the time they were a bunch of screw-ups and constantly had to be disciplined by the Lord. And he had incredibly strict laws for them so that they could survive amongst all the other peoples of the earth who chose the other gods. If he hadn't had those incredibly strict rules that we think are, in this day and age, are so harsh, like stoning people outside the city for what we would deem minor offenses or whatever, they would not have survived as a distinct people and would have ceased to exist. But to this day, they are a distinct people and fulfilling prophecy as told by God from the very beginning. So I really feel like God knows what he's doing, and we should be very careful about such things. And I hear a lot of different teachings that leave out bits and pieces of different things, but include other things, but leave out other stuff. And I just think it's important to have the full counsel and the full picture of what's really going on. We, as Gentiles, are technically adopted sons and engrafted branches. And in the engrafting, there is no longer Jew or Greek or whatever. That's a plan that was hidden in the Old Testament, revealed in the New. Right? And people just couldn't see it. Some can, the people who dig. The people who dig probably understood what Isaiah 53 was talking about when Jesus showed up. The ones who didn't dig and weren't paying attention, to this day don't even still read Isaiah 52 and 53. Or they twist it and apply it to the nation of Israel rather than the obvious, if you read it, application to a single person who is from the line of David and is the Messiah, Jesus. Anyway, with that, I will play you out into the rest of the week. Again, my apologies, folks, for the poor audio. Hopefully this will be much better, and you won't give up on us. Continue to support us and like and share. Visit the merchandise store. Look at the Monday night shows, and if you like the subject material, just know that I include the books that go into the study for the sources of it. If you want to purchase one of those books, they're right there for you to, look at and select and get one, so you can more fully know what I use as source materials and what others believe and so on. Like, I always try to include a Derek Gilbert book because I just think his writing is so great. I just really appreciate the way he thinks, and I really like his writing. So you'll find if I can include his book in some way or shape or form, I include it. But there's, other great classic books. I think this last time around, I even included Morals and Dogma. So, if you want to get one of those, and it's a win-win, support the show while you get a book. Or visit our merchandise and get a absolutely wonderful. In fact, I just bought my wife one of our hoodies for the Pilgrims Grey Chronicles. It has our great logo on the back, and it says Pilgrims Grey on the front, has our logo on the shoulder, and it's a very nice Adidas, soft, plushy, wonderful hoodie. But there's, all kinds of items there for you to look at. And again, we are working on having other ones that aren't just the show name. We want to get clever ones that you can wear in public to start a conversation without being too terribly offensive, or just informing people and educating them with the shirt. It's your way of doing your little part, right? Going out there and waking people up with whatever breadcrumb you feel comfortable using, right? And with that, let's ride out into the rest of the work week. See ya.
It's time for listener emails, comments, and stuff they send in. So kick back and listen, it'll make you grin. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, yeah. Central Standard Time, yeah. Central Standard Time, yeah. It's time for listener emails, comments, and stuff they send in.